My name is Elly Savatia. I'm a 24-year-old technology optimist and social entrepreneur. I'm the founder and CEO of Signverse and a 2024 Mandela Washington Fellow. What drew me to participating in the Mandela Washington Fellowship last year was how the program is structured. Rarely would you meet 700 young leaders from across Africa in one room. I was curious about the exposure that I would get from the program. Of course, that interaction with the US universities and how I would leverage that network to amplify my work and also explore areas of collaboration with other potential African leaders. Signverse is an assistive technology social enterprise, and we are bridging the communication gap between the deaf and hearing community, leveraging the power of artificial intelligence, automated 3D avatar systems, and the speech recognition technology. We've built Tap 360. We like to call it Google Translate for sign language. So why Signverse? 4 years ago, I used to train robotics in different regions in Kenya, and I had my first time interaction with students who had hearing impairment. So imagine 5,000 students from one county, 400 of them are deaf, but only one interpreter. The ratio for the interpreter to these students was not ideal, and this was my introduction to the world of sign languages. I grew curious about it, and I was passionate about ideally just how do I bridge this communication gap, and how do I basically bring interpretation at the comfort of a device. And that's how the idea has morphed. And over time, of course, with interaction with deaf users, it's morphed to a software device that interprets sign language, text and speech to sign. So with me, I have Manas glove. What this is, it's a motion capture hardware that ideally, if you're a fan of movies like Marvel or say Black Panther, Wakanda, if you've looked at the behind the scenes, there's usually this very specialized equipment that the actors do wear that capture their body movement. So what we do is we use motion capture technology, so both hardware and software, to digitize sign language motion. We work very closely with the deaf community, and when they have these motion capture systems on their bodies, when they sign, we're able to record their body rotations, bone rotations, which is useful sign language data that powers Tap 360, which is our digital sign language interpretation platform. So how this platform works is on the back end, the data that has been collected with motion capture technology is what powers it. And what we've done is we've augmented ideally what a human interpreter does, but now through software and automated hyper-realistic 3D avatars that are human-like, that take speech and text input, then sign very fluid human-like motions to mimic what a human interpreter would do. And this tool ideally is a software application that can be as well embedded on digital ecosystems to make any piece of information accessible to the deaf community in their primary mode of communication, which is sign language. I can sign, though I am not an expert in sign language. What I do is I merge two worlds, which is the intersection of sign language and technology. And I work very closely with the deaf community, sign language interpreters, linguists, and basically people in the ecosystem. And of course, when you work with deaf people, they teach you sign language. Yeah. Can fingerspell I went to MWF. Inclusive technology, it's a new space, or rather, I would say the challenges that I have faced developing inclusive technology in Kenya. So specifically for Signverse, it's new technology, like we're not referring this, from anywhere. Then two, of course, the challenges that come with developing AI systems are sign language data. Accessing sign language data was a challenge at the beginning of this project. But over time, of course, we were able to map out how we would mobilize for resources that would enable us to ideally expedite that product development. Two, of course, there is that resistance to new technologies in some spaces, which has also taken some time. Of course, we work with deaf people. There's a segment of them that are not as open to new technologies coming in. But with that, I think we usually say the philosophy for PWDs, there is nothing for us without us. We're grateful that we are getting that acceptance. Actually, I know this is off the record, but we held a stakeholder meeting here, this room, 2 weeks ago, where we had deaf interpreters, linguists, ecosystem partners to co-create the future of TAP 360. So over the project of Signverse, I'll share a story of a few individuals whose lives have been impacted by Signverse. And I'll point this to one of the young people that we started working with. And actually his story is very unique because I met him actually even before starting Signverse, in the groups that actually motivated me to start the work that I do. So of course we onboarded them in as one of our earliest collaborators into building this technology. And it's really been impactful to see the power of assistive technology with how it can enable a young deaf person access opportunities. For their case, they used to take public health management at a Kenyan university. They were unable to take a STEM course because interpreters are not as accessible for them. Yeah. Then, of course, we've worked with them very closely. Of course, they've really played that role in, really defining what the product should look like for them as a deaf person, and just looking at how we've impacted their journey. They got a full ride scholarship. USIU got another full ride scholarship to US funded program. And stories like that really motivate us to keep doing the work that we do, and have really played a very big role in really solidifying the fact that if we bridge communication barriers, deaf people would be able to access their basic necessities. And this cuts across education, the workplace, and just showing how important communication is like a lifeblood to access the world. Yeah. And we hope stories like that will inspire many other deaf people to see the possibilities that exist with them, really when they are given the tools that enable them to harness opportunities and put them in spaces where they can participate equally in the society. As we're celebrating the 60 years of US-Kenya relations, I think mine is just to reflect on the impact that the US State Department program, the Mandela Washington Fellowship, has had in my journey as a young African leader. I was able to create very meaningful connections in the States. I was even telling my colleague here that my institute director came all the way from Clark Atlanta University to Signverse. And the relationship that I've created with other fellows, of course, the kind of collaborations that we are foreseeing to undertake together, I think really mean the most to us, because as I had mentioned at the beginning of the interview, rarely would you find a program that really brings like the creme de la creme of a particular sector. And I would, of course, recommend that many other young leaders to take advantage of opportunities like this, because the kind of output that you get from it, the network, the social capital, the mentorship, and just that network, I think that social capital is the most important thing, because you can really convert it into meaningful value for different initiatives. And mine is to thank, of course, the US State Department, Kenya-US fraternity. And my hope is that this program would continue, and that we may see that ripple effect from the alumni in the respective communities. So the challenges that we have faced as Signverse, of course, sign language data was one big barrier that we had initially. Two, I think for scaling any new technology, of course, if it's AI related, technology related, there's that bit of capital intensity at the beginning. And programs like this also give that credibility to you as a young leader to access some of these resources. And I don't like dwelling on problems because I think I'm built to solve problems and I'm attracted to problems, solving them. So much of the problems that we did face at the beginning, actually we did generate solutions for. But of course, with relationships and just that consistent effort to try and solve. Right now, of course, we are facing very many different problems, particularly scaling and technology-related research challenges. We are exploring how to scale our data set more sustainably, and of course, not just for the Kenyan market, but globally. And we are constantly speaking to smart people to just explore how we can solve some of those technical challenges we are solving. So to the second question, what does success look like for Signverse? We see ourselves as Africa's leading assistive technology company with a specific focus on hearing disability. And over the next 2-3 years, I think what success would look like for us, one is scaling our data set. When our data set is scaled, that means our interpretation capabilities are much more pronounced, and that means our solution is used by many more deaf people. Then we would also want to play a very important role in shaping the future of education, particularly for students with hearing disability. Currently, we are setting up partnerships in place that can enable that. And three, having our platform, of course, embedded in digital ecosystems. And we're looking at websites, we're looking at advertising, we're looking at content, media, and how TAP 360 can play a role in enabling these platforms become accessible to persons with hearing disability. That's what I would say the future of Signverse and success would relate. When I'm not at Signverse, what do I do for fun? I'm actually cultivating a life outside of Signverse right now. But when I'm not at Signverse, I'm at home spending time with my family. Yeah, I think my life is that simple, really. Or trying some high adrenaline activity somewhere like skydiving or zip lining. Yeah. The advice I would give to other young social change makers seeking to address some of the challenges in their communities is just proceed. I genuinely think, and this is a statement I say frequently, I genuinely think as young people, we really do have a paramount role when it comes to shaping the kind of future we'd want to live in future. Of course, it is not easy. Every journey that's worthwhile pursuing will come with its challenges, but it's that consistency and that determination and just consistently trying to really play a part. It could be solving a problem with technology, it could be with music, poetry, whichever avenue, just get started and figure it out on the way. The message that I would have for people who are reliant on AI, and also to address the question on how AI would affect the future, I think with such technological breakthroughs comes a lot of opportunity. And I'll reference this to the early days of the computer. I think most people thought it would replace perhaps typewriting jobs, but it did actually bring a new wave of opportunities that came with it. So I think AI definitely changes the future of work. So I think we really need to equip ourselves with the skills that would make us better placed in an AI-first economy. And two, the role of AI at Signverse. The role of AI at Signverse, ideally, I think AI, machine learning related technologies are meant to mimic what human beings do. So for our case, what we've done is we mimic what a human interpreter does. So ideally, training models that can interpret sign language, which are patterns of body motion. So that's the role at which AI does. Other than that, we use AI across even how we work, from ChatGPT, Gemini, Fathom, like for productivity, from writing, other than writing, transcribing. Of course, there's that element of just training machine learning models. So I think we are AI fast, from what we create to how we pretty much do things just for faster output and efficiency.